Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie every week and discuss it just like a book club. On today's show, we are covering the superhero drama Logan. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2017, Logan was directed by James Mangold and stars Hugh Jackman, Daphne Keane, and Patrick Stewart. In the near future, a weary Logan cares for an ailing Professor X in a hideout on the Mexican border. But Logan's attempts to hide from the world and his legacy are upended when a young mutant arrives, pursued by dark forces. It's ranked 211 on IMDb's Top 250 and currently has a 4.1 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It was nominated for one Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for Logan. We're going to spoil everything that happens in this movie, and it's almost been 10 years. You should have seen this movie if you're a superhero fan. But if you haven't seen it, you've been warned. But stay tuned to the end of this week's video to find out what we're covering next week, because as always, I'm excited for it. All right, Kevin, so this was your pick this week. Why did you pick Logan?
It's a damn good movie. But to further my point, I think this is one of the better superhero movies that is a standalone superhero movie. It's not like an end game. It is a couple of characters that you grow to love. We love two of them already, and then you get to introduce to another one that you fall in love with as well.
Yeah, Caliban.
Mm-hmm.
No, I remember seeing this movie in theaters when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I went in expecting it just to be like, the Wolverine, which I thought was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy shit, this movie's really good. And then I think I ended up going to see it again with another friend of mine, and just absolutely loving it. And I do think that this is probably, I think this is Marvel's Dark Knight.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think it is the best superhero movie that Marvel has ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes down to a lot of different reasons that we will talk about in this video. So, but let's go ahead and kind of jump in. So where do you think we should start, Kevin? Like, what do you want to start with this?
I mean, I don't want to start at the end, but the end's so good. But I want to start off with the cinematography in this movie. As for a superhero movie, this is a very pretty movie, and then it gets very grungy and dark towards the end when shit hits the fan, pretty much. But I absolutely love the at the end, the white snow coming down on basically the end of Logan. And then, but I also like the big scale forest, and the shots of the action in this movie are fantastic. I feel like they're not rushed at all, and that's what I feel like a lot of superhero movies are. They're rushed action movies, which it's not from a action scene and then some story to another action scene. It just flows very, very nicely throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, flow is a great thing to point out. I think this movie, it starts out, and I think you don't really need to know anything about the X-Men universe. I mean, basics of characters maybe, but like you could watch this as someone who's never seen an X-Men film and understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that the mutants are a stand-in for any marginalized group, and that's very easy to pick up on. They're being hunted down, and in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like where we're heading right now in the United States. But it really does flow from the beginning to the end. I can't think of a part where this movie slows down. I think that it really keeps its pace and this momentum going. And like you said, the cinematography in this movie, it stands out from at least all the Fox Marvel movies for sure. I think this is definitely their best looking movie, and it might be better than a lot of the MCU stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
And I really do think that it is something special. And I think of the cinematography every time Professor X's powers are going off.
Yep.
And like the way that it shakes everything, and some things are slow and some things aren't. It's absolutely riveting. And I think for me, the biggest part of this movie is the tone. Like this takes such a darker turn from
Mhm.
every other Fox X-Men movie for sure. And this is probably the darkest X-Men movie, or Marvel movie.
I would say so. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, except for maybe some of the animal stuff in Guardians 3, but like this is probably the darkest. And you know, I'm not going to be that person that says darkness is always good. A dark movie is
No.
not always a good thing,
Mhm.
but it works so well here as an adaptation of the Old Man Logan type story.
Yeah.
Um,
It has to have a dark movie. Has to have the background for it to be dark. It just can't just be a dark movie just to be a dark movie. His background in the comics is absolutely terrifying and horrifying at the same time, and there's nothing good that comes out of his comic book character background a lot of the time. So it being very grounded and dirty and grungy and dark it's supposed to happen, and it also happens in the original comics that he is from, which I think is really fantastic.
yeah, and I think that, you know, that tone is really what carries it.
Mm-hmm.
100%. But also in that there is an incredible level of emotion in this movie.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Think
When he
about
does,
what happens. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say he doesn't want to show his emotions half the time because he's Logan. He doesn't need to show his emotions. He's the Wolverine and stuff. But X-23 gets his emotions all bent out of sorts and stuff, and he doesn't know how to play with his feelings. I want to say, or know how to express his feelings towards what is happening in the movie.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of people will say like, oh, when he takes all the basically the adrenaline and has his rampage sequence, that is a very good moment, 100%. But the moment after Xavier dies
Mm-hmm.
and he's burying Xavier with Laura, is my favorite moment of the whole movie.
Yeah.
He just lets it go. And I do think that Hugh Jackman should have been nominated for an acting award for this in some way. I think it is a crime that Patrick Stewart wasn't nominated.
Yeah.
This is the best he's ever been as that character. Same with Hugh Jackman. They're both at the pinnacle of their careers with these characters.
Yeah.
And it's purely because of the script, which is Oscar nominated and brilliant, but also the emotion, which is because of the script, but then also they're working with that script to bring it to life. And it's truly something special to behold every time you watch it. Like compared to every other X-Men movie in this universe, this is the most emotion we get and the most well written it's ever been. Probably since maybe X-Men 2,
Maybe
probably the best of the X-Men movies, or Days of Future Past also has some good qualities. That's probably the best X-Men movie off the top of my head. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but like, yeah, it's truly brilliant, and the performances really, you can't stop talking about performances. We've already talked about Patrick Stewart; he's incredible in this movie. Hugh Jackman, incredible in this movie as well.
Amazing. Yep.
But Daphne Keane as Laura is something that I was not expecting to be nearly as good as she is in this movie.
Yeah,
She's brilliant.
And she doesn't speak a lot of English in this movie either, but she shows her emotions on her face and what she tries to portray, which again infuriates Logan because she's not communicating with him. But we understand the bond between each other as the movie goes on and what eventually happens at the end of the movie. And I thought she was just going to be a little a girl that was very annoying in this movie, and I'm so glad that it was blown out of proportions, and she showed so much raw emotions throughout. She does have dialogue in this movie, but with very minimal dialogue in this movie.
Yeah, it's, and most of it in Spanish.
Yeah.
Which I believe she's from the UK, so like that must have been kind of hard. But also like Boyd Holbrook as the kind of villainous character pursuing them. Richard E. Grant as the evil doctor. You know, like they're all wonderful additions. Oh, and Stephen Merchant as Caliban is a presence that he wasn't in any of the movies, and he's just here, and he already is better than probably 50% at least of the other X-Men characters. But and also, you can't forget the fact, because I almost did, that Hugh Jackman plays two characters in this movie.
Oh yeah, X-24. I forgot. Totally forgot.
Which, God, I'm gonna keep saying that scene when he's the one that kills Xavier is heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
man, again, the dark tone, the nature of this, it's so good. Like, I feel bad because I just sit here saying that over and over again, but like, it's truly something special, and from a studio that does make very good things, also makes
Mhm.
very mediocre things, but like, this is the best Marvel's ever been.
Yeah, it really was. This is like the peak of Marvel, pretty much. It's like we said at the beginning. This is Marvel's Dark Knight for DC, and once you go into that, once we say that, and you go watch this movie for the first time, you'll understand exactly what we're talking about because it's so good. I again, we can't say enough. It's so good, but it really is because it gives it's more adult. It's more of an adult film and not made for like the superhero people like PG-13 or something like that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing if it's PG-13, but you show more raw emotions when it's a rated R movie. You can get away with a lot more, and it shows in this movie that a rated R was good for this movie because it can show you all of what they wanted to.
Yeah, they didn't have to hold back.
Mm-hmm.
Is really what it came down to, and I think that I want to see if I think this came out before. No, this came out after Deadpool, so they know that they could have a successful R-rated comic book movie with Deadpool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then this, I think, really allowed them. Obviously, this was being made as Deadpool came out, but like it probably reinforced the fact that like, no, we could tell a brutal story that is going to resonate with people.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Which I absolutely love.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad that they ended up choosing to go that route. Yeah, and making something that stands out.
It does stand out, and that's why everybody talks about it being one of the best solo movies, DC or Marvel, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's up there with, at least on the Marvel side, it's up there with Captain America: Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. It's up there with Guardians of the Galaxy. In terms of like solo, like team or like solo films, or maybe like. I hesitate to call Guardians of the Galaxy a solo film, but like it's not like an Avengers movie, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's even up there with some of the best in the genre, like Dark Knight, or The Batman, or the original Superman. Like it's up there, and it truly earns its place. It's.
But you see what you're saying with all of those movies; they're very grounded. They don't feel like a superhero movie, and that's where I think.
Don't get me wrong. The stuff that's like Endgame and Infinity War are great, and those are not grounded at all. But like, if you want a truly great movie, though, it's not even a matter of having it be grounded. The fact that these are mutants and it's like near future, it's not very grounded. But it's the relatable human emotions, the dark nature of its storyline, and the finality of it all that really brought it home.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of people see like our ages now, we know of Wolverine, but we don't know of Old Man Wolverine or Old Man Logan, is what they call him. And showing this to like me, I was like, oh my gosh, what does the comic have to say about this? And everybody on the comic forums were raving about this movie because of how good it was. And that's a great thing when a comic people and movie people come together and be like, this is how you do a movie that is dark but still holds up to other superhero movies.
Alrighty, Kevin. So Logan was your pick. What are your final thoughts and score?
Final thoughts is go see this movie if you're tempted to watch like a superhero movie, because this is one of the better superhero movies that I have seen in a very long time. But hopefully you will enjoy, because you don't have to know any of like the Marvel characters or X-Men characters. It's very point and click, and it's there. It's for an experience. Absolutely love the action in this movie, the cinematography, but I like the connection between Wolverine, X-23 X-23 and Professor X in this movie. They just all combined, and it makes it just an amazing movie. So I gave it a 96 out of 100. Fantastic superhero movie.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Logan is phenomenal. Forget the comic book stuff. This is just a fantastic film that has comic book elements to it. It's part redemption story, part buddy road trip, and it just works so well. Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman are award worthy here. Daphne Keane is fantastic in her role as well. The script is incredible, bringing a level of emotion and tension that you don't really expect in an X-Men film. And even if the second act of this movie, in the middle of it, does get a little long at some points, I could still watch this all day, every day. I love Logan. So with that, I'm going to give it a 92 out of 100, which is 4.5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. And with that, the question now falls to you. What do you think of Logan? We'd love to hear what you have to say down in the comment section down below. But remember to be respectful of one another, because the other person could be a clone of you trying to kill you. But next week, we are covering the Japanese crime drama High and Low, which I am beyond excited to talk about. Another Akira Kurosawa movie. So make sure to watch it before next week so you're not spoiled. But thank you for joining us. Of course, this show goes live every single Friday at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And our live stream goes live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk about movie news, reviews, and so much more. But that's it. So until next time, make sure to keep those eyes on the screen.